The magic number is 40. 40 days left until the American people decide whether to restore Donald Trump to the Oval Office or whether the country goes in a new direction, whether it goes forward and ends this terrible era. This is the warning. Over these last few weeks, I have talked about the growing danger facing the country and have connected it to the rising menace of Donald Trump's losing campaign, which is decomposing, disorganized, and spiraling. Donald Trump is an American fascist, and Donald Trump has tried to stifle speech about that core fact in this issue by frightening people, by threatening people, by promising retribution, by committing to locking people up. Donald Trump has one sick person who supports him. Maybe you've heard about him. He's the leader of Project 2025. And he shocked his colleagues when he was a university professor by talking about how he killed the neighbor's dog by beating it to death. That's who these people are. Stephen Miller, who in the Oval Office, in front of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, wondered if the U.S. Navy could kill a boat full of Mexican migrants off the coast of San Diego. There's so much insanity, so much hypocrisy, so much stupidity that sometimes when you hear a clarifying question, it's thrilling in this moment of the lowest trust levels ever recorded for the American media, which on a day-to-day basis is as abominable as MAGA itself. But here's a great question to the Ohio fascist and political arsonist and heroin dealer, J.D. Vance.
Trump says it's too late to debate because voting has already started and it's bad for America. You're set to debate Walz on Tuesday. Does that mean your debate is bad for America?
Well, look. First of all, the president already did a debate, and I thought he did a hell of a job. How did you guys think he did?
No, Trump did great at the debate. We all remember, right?
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Over and over again, I've talked about why this issue with the Haitians is such a big deal. It's not about immigration policy. It's about right and wrong. It's about indecency versus decency. It's about patriotism versus fascism. It's about kindness versus cruelty. It's about honesty versus demagoguery. Because in Springfield, Ohio, there's a battle waging in the ether between the lie and the truth. Because the truth is, those Haitians in Springfield are there legally, legally. They are legally in Springfield. And the Republican governor, a vacillating man and appeaser who continues to support Trump, has begged Trump to stop his attacks that have sieged a city just like the community where you live, except for the state police probably don't have to guard your schools and your hospitals, which are locked down and shut down because of the bomb threats instigated by the malice of America's MAGA fascist politicians like Congressman Clay Higgins. This is what this sick congressman from Louisiana said. Here is what a man who calls himself a good Christian said about these people, the Haitian immigrants, legally in Springfield, Ohio, a state and a community that he doesn't represent. But what he did was to make clear that from him, those people aren't safe because he has power and he's coming for them. His colleagues, well, they were aghast. So they went to him on the House floor and got on him because most normal Americans are repelled by this because they appreciate how repugnant it is. But when we talk about repugnancy, the issue isn't the act, it's always the response to it. And so here we have the MAGA speaker, Mike Johnson, the man who believes that people and dinosaurs lived together 5,000 years ago, tried to explicate his friend, his colleague, his fellow Louisianan from the whole racially menacing thing.
I heard about that on the floor just now as well. Clay Higgins is a dear friend of mine and a colleague from Louisiana, and a very frank and outspoken person. He's also a very principled man. And I think he tweeted, I didn't even see it, but he tweeted something today about Haitians, and he was approached
by January 20th.
Okay. Well, look, he was approached on the floor by colleagues who said that was offensive. He went to the back. I just talked to him about it. He said he went to the back and he prayed about it and he regretted it and he pulled the post down. That's what you want a gentleman to do. I'm sure he probably regrets some of the language he used, but we move forward. We believe in redemption around here.
He prayed about it. He prayed about it. What did he pray about? Oh, I forgot. It's a MAGA prayer. That's different than normal prayer. Normal prayer usually takes place in a communion between a person and a God, has no politics involved. That's not a MAGA prayer. So when he prayed about it, he was probably praying to Pastor Paula, Trump's spiritual advisor.
The Lord says, it is done. For I hear victory, 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 victory in the corridors of heaven. In the corridors of heaven, victory, 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 victory. For angels are being released right now. Angels are being dispatched right now. Hamanda aka ata raka deda baka sanda ada ambo osa kata rite eke banda ada rike didi ashada. For angels have even been dispatched from Africa right now. Africa right now. Africa right now. From Africa right now.
Wow. And speaking of heaven and Africa, I guess I know that it was the angels that brought Mark Robinson, the black Nazi from North Carolina, to that nude Africa site. This election is not about issues. It's not about whether you think that Kamala Harris is right about what she thinks the tax rate should be. It's about the preservation of the union and our way of life and protecting all of our futures, which are bound together from a menacing force that has promised to do most terrible things. Stanley McChrystal was the American commander of coalition forces in Afghanistan. Stanley McChrystal is a retired American general who was relieved of command because of comments he made that disparaged Barack Obama that were reported in Rolling Stone by a reporter who was assigned to cover him. Again, General McChrystal was relieved of command for insubordination towards the commander-in-chief, Barack Obama. General McChrystal did something that Mitt Romney hasn't done, that George W. Bush hasn't done. Stanley McChrystal has recognized that this is not a time where indifference is tolerable, that leaders must take a stand, and that leaders have to communicate the essential quality. The only one that matters in the office of president is character. Trump has none whatsoever. He is a brutal nihilist, a merciless narcissist. He is an insurrectionist, a convicted criminal, an adjudicated rapist, a con man who does not care about you and is not on your side. Trump is a moral infant. Trump is a disaster. And we will have catastrophe as a people in a country. 40 days from now, he must be repudiated. The voting has started. The time to do something is running short. Get involved. Volunteer. Make phone calls. Donate. Knock on doors. This election is existential. Have no doubt about that. It's become cliche because the stakes have been so high with Trump for the last decade, and we won't see a return to some specter of normalcy when elections aren't existential, but a continuation of policy debates between two opposing parties committed to democracy. But we don't live in that country anymore. Maybe that's why Mitt Romney has chosen to stay on the sidelines in this election, to choose indifference, to try to hide, because he's afraid to speak out. When our United States senators are afraid to speak out, when our media is afraid to speak out, when our writers are afraid, when our artists are afraid, when people talk about what the punishment for dissent will be, the question is fair to ask. Do we live in a free country anymore? And remember, their fear is just on the premise that he could come back to power. This Haitians eating pets is a big story because it's the contours of a great battlefield where the lie and the truth have been long engaged. And democracy can't survive in the darkness where there's no room for truth and only the lie can spread. That's the warning. 40 days left. 40 days that define the balance of the 21st century for the American people. We are at the fork in the road. I'm Steve Schmidt. This is The Warning, and I invite you to subscribe on our Substack, on our YouTube channel. Follow us. Welcome to the community.